Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if all that screen time is actually hurting our teenagers? And if so, how badly? Well, this new study dives deep into just that, and it paints a pretty eye-opening picture. So what if we could actually measure all the ways teens are experiencing bad stuff online and offline, and even figure out which apps are linked to which problems? That's exactly what these researchers wanted to do. They noticed that while everyone is worried about teens online, we don't have great standardized ways to track these harms. Many studies focus on just one or two problems, like cyberbullying, and they don't compare online stuff to real-world experiences or break it down by each specific app. Plus, they often miss younger teens who might be more at risk. So their big question was, how prevalent are these negative online experiences among American teens? And does it differ depending on the platform they use or their age and gender? To answer this, they did something really cool. They surveyed a nationally representative group of about 482 American teens aged 13 to 17. Think of it like a highly accurate snapshot of what's happening across the whole country. They used a established panel called the Understanding America study to make sure the results were as accurate as possible for teens everywhere, not just those in one specific town or school. This is super important because it means we can trust the numbers more. They asked these teens about their experiences over the past 4 weeks, covering things like harassment, sexual solicitation, and exposure to violent content or content about self-harm. They also asked if technology use was messing with their sleep. And importantly, they asked about these experiences both online and offline, and they specifically asked about usage on 20 different online platforms. So what did they find? Get ready for this. Negative online experiences are surprisingly common across both online and offline settings. A huge 44.3% of teens witnessed harassment, and almost 30% experienced it directly in just the last month. That's 1 in 3 teens dealing with some form of harassment. But here is where it gets really interesting. Online exposure was often much worse than offline exposure. For instance, about 10.5% of teens saw violent imagery online compared to only 1.6% offline. Unwanted sexual images were seen by 13.5% online versus 2.0% offline. And content encouraging self-harm was seen by 9.6% online versus 5.1% offline. So the internet is definitely a hotspot for some of these particularly disturbing types of content. And the sleep disruption. Over half of the teens, more than 51.7%, said their technology use interferes with their sleep. That's a massive number, and it tells us that our digital habits are really impacting our rest. But it wasn't just a one-size-fits-all situation. The researchers found significant differences based on who the teens were. Girls, for example, were more likely than boys to feel worse about themselves because of what they saw others posting or saying online. And older teens aged 15 to 17 were more likely to witness discrimination than younger teens. Now, for the juicy part, the platform differences. This is where it gets really specific. They found that the platforms teens used really mattered. For example, when it came to sleep disruption, around 42.8% of teens who used TikTok said that platform messed with their sleep. For Instagram, it was 28.3%. Compare that to just 11.3% for text messaging and a tiny 0.6% for email. This shows that some platforms are much more likely to be associated with certain harms than others. And it's not just sleep. Feelings of inadequacy because of others' posts were more common on Instagram and TikTok than on platforms like YouTube. This highlights that different platforms have different cultures and different impacts. Now, here is something that might surprise you. The study also looked at whether things like parental education income or whether parents use parental controls made a difference in how much harm teens experienced online, and they found no significant association. This is a really important finding because it suggests that simply having more educated parents or income or even parental controls might not be enough to shield teens from all online harms. This doesn't mean those things aren't important, but it indicates that the problem is more complex and might require different kinds of interventions. So what does all this mean? The researchers conclude that negative online experiences are common for American teens, and they vary a lot depending on the platform, the teen's gender, and their age. They emphasize that we need better ways to measure these harms across different platforms and contexts, comparing online to offline and social media to other digital spaces. This is crucial for turning research findings into real action for teens, parents, platforms, and lawmakers. The fact that platforms are so different is a really big takeaway here. It means we can't just talk about social media as one big thing. Each platform has its own personality and its own set of risks and benefits. This research is really valuable because it gives us more detailed data on what's happening and where it's a step towards creating more targeted solutions, rather than broad sweeping advice. Of course, no study is perfect. The researchers themselves point out some limitations. The sample size, while representative, is still relatively modest, and since it's all self-reported, there's always a chance of people not remembering perfectly or wanting to look good. Also, the online world changes so fast that what's true today might be a bit different tomorrow. But despite these limitations, the study provides a really robust and important look at a critical issue. To put this into perspective, their findings suggest that out of the roughly 22 million American teens in this age group, about 3 million might see unwanted sexual content, and over 10 million experience sleep disruption due to technology in just a 4-week window. These are huge numbers, and they really underscore the public health significance of these online harms. This research is a fantastic example of how we can start to move beyond just general worries and towards specific data. It shows we can measure these harms on a large scale and by platform. Having this kind of consistent measurement is key if we want to figure out what interventions are actually working to protect young people in our increasingly digital world. It's about building a foundation of evidence so we can make better decisions for the well-being of our youth. So what's my take on this? This study is a really important piece of the puzzle. By breaking down harms by platform and demographics, it gives us a much clearer picture than we've had before. The finding that parental controls and socioeconomic factors weren't directly linked to reduced harm exposure is particularly thought-provoking. It suggests we need to look at platform design, stronger safety features, and better digital literacy education. For parents, it is a reminder that while monitoring is important, understanding the specific digital landscapes your kids inhabit is probably even more crucial. What platform are they on? What kind of content are they seeing there? Future research could definitely build on this by looking at longitudinal data to see how these experiences impact teens over time, and maybe digging deeper into why certain platforms are riskier than others. Are there specific features, the algorithms, or the user base that contribute to these differences? What do you think about these findings? Are you surprised by any of them? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science explained simply. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of psychology and the human mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.